Welcome to your August reading and happy early birthday. All right, so today I want to talk to you about something called compensatory control. You, Virgo, are the first card, the Hermit. And then we have the King of Cups and the Queen of Cups. This makes perfect sense to me considering that Mars and Venus are both in your sign when we start August, and it gives you all the energy you need to attract and also to receive. So it's extremely beneficial in the love department. Sounds great, right? So what's compensatory control? It is the act by which we try to make our external as calm and drama-free as we can, so it will give us a little bit of calm within the mind. Now, the way this can turn on us is if we decide that we don't want to see what's going on in the mind. We don't want to acknowledge that the need we have for external control comes from the lack of control within. So if our inner life is tumultuous, we will react by trying to make our outer life, our externality, as ordered as possible. This can bring up a need to criticize and to control. The way you say things determines whether August is the happiest, most romantic month, or if you end up burning down not just your own tower, but several other people's towers as well. Simply because when you get closer to a situation that you think you want, okay, you have your cup, you give your cup over to be filled, people want to fill your cup left and right, you're really into it, of course, who wouldn't be? And then as you get closer and closer to the thing, you may realize that there's a little too much wrong with it. The details, the hassle, the drama. Now, a lot of this is because you are looking for this control in the external, because the internal is going through major changes. You have Mars, you have Venus, you have Mercury, and then you have the Sun. So while the inner life is tossing and turning, the external life gets kind of held by the throat. It has been raining like crazy, and yeah. So it's not necessarily what I would call high maintenance. It's more that your value of self trumps everything. And instead of that making you more pleasant to be around, it can actually rob you of the charm that Mars and Venus together are trying to bestow upon you. It's like you get all the energy and all the fuel that you need, you get all the love luck that you need, but instead of using it to get into a nice relationship or create a new friendship or forge a new alliance at work, instead it seems that you want to use that power to cut through, to work alone, to work on self without the help of anyone, without the help of a partner. It's such an extreme shift from the beginning of the month to the middle of the month that anyone who has feelings for you can get really confused, because they feel you getting closer and they're thinking, well, this is exactly what I want, and I'm assuming this is what the Virgo wants as well. But I don't think they realize that when you get close enough, that need to control takes over, and then even the smallest issue, the smallest flaw, becomes a reason for you to wash your hands of the whole thing. Now, I don't think that has anything to do with the other person, whether they're a work colleague or a romantic partner or a friend. I think that's your compensatory control kicking in. I think that's you not being able to do anything about the tumult in the mind. And so instead, you kind of turn things upside down. Some of you are still in the process of healing. And you're healing from a time where you really thought you had everything. You had it all. And you had the right partner, and you had the right living situation, and you had the right job, and you had quite a lot of control, and you felt powerful. And it's like every time you think about that time period, it makes you angry because you don't have those things now, and you hate feeling left out of it. So for some of you, this becomes a lot more Queen of Pentacles about work. Maybe you don't want to do what you used to do. The only thing that can hold you back then is thinking that you don't need to learn anything new. As long as you think you know everything, it just continues to work against you. If you realize that perhaps it's time to pick up a new skill or get some more education, or perhaps look in a different field where you'll have to learn something new, if you can do that without making yourself feel like you failed, then great. Then you're set. Then August is easy. But if you get stuck because you thought you saw something you liked or someone you liked and they turned out to not be what you thought, or it turned out to be too much trouble, if you take that and get sad about it and let yourself wallow in it, then this exploratory Mars energy that can bring new skills into your life and bring new people into your life can get used against you. And that violence against self, it can be ramped up even more if you don't take into account that Saturn is retrograde, right? So Saturn's retrograde, all the work you've put in, perhaps for a long time now, you may feel like it's coming to nothing. You may feel like, I was waiting for this moment of fruition and it's not happening. Like everything's just coming in drips. And even if everything around you is moving really quickly, what you're accumulating yourself feels like so little. And you can start to take that out on yourself. But then you have to remember, Saturn is retrograde, Jupiter is retrograde, Uranus goes retrograde. So if you cannot be flexible, if you insist on being rigid in what you expect from self and what you demand from self, then it can put you in a really bad place, because that Mars energy can be your best friend, but it can also be the one that criticizes you the most. You can become hypercritical because of the Mars energy, instead of becoming hyper loving and forgiving and compassionate, which is what Venus would want you to do, but it's only there for half the month. It can become too much. Overall, it can become too much. And that's exactly how you start the month feeling, and it proceeds throughout the month, where you want more and more and more control over everything around you because you feel more and more like you're losing control internally. Now, for those of you who get a handle on this and don't let yourself do this, for those of you who are kind and compassionate and you keep that King of Cups energy flowing all month, it's very possible for you to not only come across somebody new who's really exciting, mysterious, funny, all those things, but they are pretty serious too. And if you're not hell-bent on criticizing, you will see that despite their flaws, which will be very obvious to you, you like them. And they like you. And that's nice. We like that. So, who's your worst enemy? You. We know that already. How can you mitigate this? No matter what anybody tells you, try not to give them the rundown for why they're wrong. Even if between you and I, you know they're wrong. Doesn't matter. It's really not about wrong and right, especially not in Leo season. It's about letting people be as they are. Now that brings up a little difficulty for me because I've been telling people up until your sign, Leo season's so great because it brings out who you really are. It lets you be who you really are. Aries, if you want to rush, rush. Taurus, if you want to play with people, play with people. Gemini, if you want to focus on yourself solely, focus on yourself. But Virgo, you may think you being you is the you that is hypercritical. But I would counter that the real you is adventurous, a bit of a risk taker, very interested in evolution and evolving the self. And the only thing that can keep you from this is your own rigidity. So let's not get too involved in any false narratives that exist about ourselves. Yes, do you have a tendency to criticize? You do. Will it be heightened at this time of year? Yes, it will, especially because you're already getting in that mode. You know, it's almost time for you to go into work mode and take care of the harvest and figure out what's what for the coming year. So of course it's starting to build and ramp up. But what I'm saying is you may not even realize it yourself, that you're taking things that are beautifully packaged and given to you to help you, to make your life better and more fun. And instead of accepting these gifts, if you begin to dismantle them and start to look at each piece to see if it's perfect, all you're doing is exhibiting how chaotic it is in your head, how much of a tower moment you're going through. Because otherwise, if you were calm in the mind, you know, the things around you could be a little bit chaotic. That gift doesn't need to be perfect. That person doesn't need to be perfect. This relationship doesn't need to be perfect. You're understanding. Yes, there are hassles. Yes, there are dramas. Yes, things happen. But if the mind is super noisy, any little thing from the outside, you know, it exacerbates it. A brush against you feels like a cut, right? A word said to help you feels like someone admonishing you. You may even take me saying this as, oh, well, you're insulting me. Not at all. Not at all. In fact, the last thing I have written down here is that your freedom, that's really who you are. If we're talking about Leo season bringing out and allowing each sign to be the most them, then it's your freedom that I would focus on. Your freedom lies in listening to others. Your freedom lies in being compassionate to them. Your freedom lies in being forgiving of people's flaws that they can't necessarily help. You know, it's okay to not like a situation. It's okay to be unhappy with something without tearing it apart. It's okay to like something that isn't quite what you thought it was going to be. Perhaps it's even better. Perhaps that's the growth that we're looking for, is being able to accept things as they are and love them as they are. You must have heard this from someone in your life before who loved you so much that they needed you to acknowledge them and accept them the way that they are. And if you haven't done that, you've really hurt the person. We don't want to do that in August. We don't want to hurt anybody. And there's no reason to hurt anybody. Accepting others as they are, flaws and all, first of all, doesn't make you flawed. It doesn't mean that you're excusing of things that can be changed. It means that you're accepting of people and situations as they are. Now, I think it's almost easier for you to see the bad in something than it is to be brutally honest and say, this is not because of a flaw. This is not because it's too dramatic. This is not because it's too much of a hassle. I just don't want this. It's almost easier for you to be cutting. It's easier to be cutting than it is to be vulnerable. It's easier to be cutting than it is to be so truthful that you feel that you're exposing yourself. And this also ties into your need to be, the nice person. So even though you are very nice, you are allowed to have likes and dislikes. You are allowed to say, this is too much for me, or I don't want to do this. But when you go further than that, and it starts to sound like the other person or the situation is to blame, you've gone too far. And in every other scenario, in every other month this year, people will not react to it the way they will this month. You have to realize in Leo season, if you approach people that way, what you get back is teeth and claws. And unfortunately, you're not equipped to deal with either. Right? You've got words that can really hurt. You've got judgment. You've got insight into them, probably more than they have into themselves. But you don't have teeth and claws, right? So this I'm saying as much as being good for others and for your relationships, I'm also saying this as a protective measure. This is not the month to accidentally or purposefully make anyone feel bad. You can't rock with something, you can't rock with it. Full stop. Period. That's it. You don't need to say anything else. We don't need to muck up the waters of karma just because, judgment card, you want to make a point. Please don't make any points. Please don't make any points. There's no need to make any points. None. Sail through the first couple of weeks of August by allowing, and whenever you feel that need for control, that Hermit card is saying, look within. Look within. Don't try to exert that control on the outside. Look within. See what you find. See how you feel. See what it is inside that makes you feel like you're losing your grip. Tighten there. Focus there. And loosen your grip on the external. Let people be as they are. Let situations develop as they are. If you are unhappy, you take yourself out of the situation. If you don't like where you work, you learn a new skill. The things that you can do for you, do them. Whatever you can do to aid in your evolution as a person, do it. Whatever you can do to deepen your emotional intelligence, do it. But as soon as you start to point the finger somewhere else, pull back. Because anything that you have an issue with, or there's some consternation around anything, it is stemming from something within that is unresolved, something that desperately wants to be resolved. It wants to be addressed. It needs to be addressed. It's spiraling out of control in certain cases. Focus there. The other thing is, if you try to exert this external control, it's very obvious. Perhaps not in every other season, but it's super obvious in this season. So, for the sake of our image, Virgos like to be well liked. They like to be, who doesn't like to be respected, but respected within a community. For all those reasons, what we don't want to do is pull the curtain back ourselves. There's just no need when you could easily gain more skills, gain more control over your inner life, and continue to be the wizard. The hermit, the wizard, same thing. All right, frizzy hair and all, I love you, love you, love you, love you. Hi Virgo, welcome to the second part of your reading. All right, look at that first card there. You know that natural pull that you have. You don't have to do much. It's this effortless kind of beauty, effortless style. It pulls people in. Well, now you have Mars and Venus adding to that. So a little bit of the heart on the sleeve, a little heartbreak in the smile, a little more aggressive than usual when it comes to expressing your likes and dislikes. And we keep it there. If we relegate it to the romantic area of your life, fantastic. But as soon as it seeps into other aspects of your life, it can become super high maintenance or hypercritical. Now, it's really easy for you to take this energy of Mars and Venus and overstep. It's possible that something you meant to say in the most innocent way ends up being super offensive. You can, in fact, at this time, destroy relationships, put yourself back 10 steps by using the wrong tone. If you're demanding of something that you have no right to be demanding of, things get very messy. Okay? King of Cups says, be open to receiving. Not necessary to go that extra step and demand what you want. As long as your heart is open to receiving, things move smoothly. Queen of Cups, be open to giving just as much as you are to receiving. So if what you want is to be out here, seductive, beautiful, meeting new people, then when they pay attention back to you, right, reciprocate it. You have a tendency that once you know that someone is on the hook, that you back off or you get bored or, okay, well, the challenge is over, right? Now, what we don't want to do is let our insecurities run August. So the more insecure you feel, the more you will want to demand perfection or demand whatever it is that you want from the people around you. So every time you start to feel or you can see in the reflection of others, wait a minute, I'm being super demanding right now, you need to pull back and think about what insecurity is triggering internally, what insecurity is triggering this external need for control. Now, Saturn is retrograde. And that Hanged Man there is the perfect indication of how you start the month feeling all this power, and then Saturn retrograde is like, wait, I'm still here, and I'm still retrograde, and I'm hitting the brakes on all this. So we go from the King of Cups to the Page of Cups. We are slowing down. We are in some ways, if we are not careful, if we do not devote ourselves to work and kind of get lost in it, if we insist on having our way, we can put ourselves into a situation just on our own that we cannot get out of. Okay, so you may feel by the second week or the middle of the second week of August like you have been trapped into a prison of your own making. And now you don't know how to talk your way out, because when you try to talk your way out of it, you're even more harsh without meaning to be. You're telling way too many truths, and it ends up causing some big breaks in your life. Those retrogrades, they want you to start over. But starting over does not mean that we burn existing bridges, okay? You may need a revamp. These retrogrades will help you with that. But that does not necessarily translate to destroying the connections that you already have, that you've nurtured, that you've maintained over, some of them, quite a long period of time. Now, when it comes to work, learning a new skill or admitting to yourself that there is room for you to do something new, learn something new that can add to what you already do, add to your existing skill set, that's perfect. If you get on that road of learning new skills, that Queen of Pentacles energy just opens up for you, and you will find that the rest of the year goes very smoothly when it comes to finances. But if your ego takes over. You don't need to learn anything new because you already know and you know exactly what to do, and there's no room in your field for you to learn anything. You're certainly too old to get more of an education. If you start going down any of these roads, it is very easy to get stuck in a bit of a time warp where you begin to regret things that you didn't do. You don't do it now, and you look back on it 3 or 4 years from now and think, oh, damn it, if I had just done that thing, I could have been so much better off financially, emotionally, and just in terms of my personal power. Okay? Now, those of you who decide that you're going to put your pride, your ego to the side, you're going to learn a new skill, you jump right over these precarious moments, you jump right over this self-sabotage, and we get to the Three of Pentacles. We have Venus in Virgo until the 16th. You also have Mercury from the 11th to the 30th. After the 16th, it is very important for you to focus on money. Before the 16th, it's important for you to focus on your relationships with others, especially when it comes to your dialogue with them. It's not about how much you love them or don't love them. We know you love them. But the way you talk sometimes is crazy. And it's very hard for people to believe that you love them when the words coming out of your mouth don't match the energy of your actions. They know by the energy of your actions that you love them, but words are very powerful. And unfortunately, people tend to put a higher value on what you say to them than even what you do for them. This is a dilemma for Virgo that comes up for Virgos all the time. Why does it matter what I'm saying? I'm doing everything to show I'm more of a, excuse me, I'm gonna drink some water. I'm more of a doer, you'll say, right? But you have to understand, people lead with their emotions. They don't lead with their thoughts. They're not being analytical. All they know is how you make them feel. You can do 10 things for someone that show them that you care. But if what's coming out of your mouth while you do them is you're not good enough, they're not going to appreciate any one of those things. You've wasted all that effort and you've created bad feeling with someone that you essentially did a lot